As we were talking about tariffs a little bit earlier, the senator from Virginia talked about Australia. I will point out that Australia has, well, we bought about $28 billion worth of Australian beef, and they've bought exactly zero of ours. So there's an opportunity to be able to improve that trade relationship. So that's one of the things I hope will come out of the trade negotiations.
You will acknowledge there is, though, we actually have a trade surplus.
We actually have a trade surplus with Australia, that is correct, but we'd like to sell more beef to them. So that's an opportunity. But one quick question on that, kind of just following up on Senator Kennedy's line of questioning. So if a tariff was put in place and the prices went up, wouldn't that be a one-time event, right? Because after that, it would be baked in. It's just a one-time thing.
So it might well be, as I indicated in my opening remarks, it might well be a one-time event, but that isn't a law of nature. You know, we would want to make sure of that. We were more sure of that back in 2018 because we'd had 40 years of low inflation, coming off of a global inflation episode where we haven't fully returned to 2%. It's something that's a question we will approach carefully.
But if the tariff is only put in once and just maintains the flat rate there, then how could that be inflationary in the second year?
Well, because it could be a process of many years. I mean, that's a couple of things are. One is if it comes in quickly and it's over and done, then yes, very likely it's a one-time thing, like an oil shock, a one-time oil shock where the price comes back down, it goes through the system. It doesn't raise inflation, just raises prices once. But if you have a process that goes on multiple shocks for years, for example, or if the shocks are very large, that kind of thing. And I think, again, we have to be conscious of the current situation, which is people haven't seen 2% flat inflation for some years now, and it's different from what it was in 2018 when we had tariffs earlier, when we actually cut rates. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying we're not reacting at all to this. It's a risk we feel like as the people who are supposed to keep stable prices for the benefit of the American people, we need to manage that risk too. That's all we're doing. We're not deciding what to do yet.
Yeah. So if Senator Warner's comment that a tariff is a tax, would that imply that then taxes could be inflationary as well?
No.
So what's the difference between a tax and a tariff then? Or do you disagree with Senator Warner's characterization that tariffs are not taxes?
I wouldn't disagree with that, but it's not the language I use. Look, this is, as I say, one time could be the base case, but in a situation like this where the process could go on for a long time, where the effects could be large or small, it's just something you want to approach carefully in a world where inflation is not back to 2%. And that's our job. If we make a mistake here, people will pay the cost for a long time. And so we're just approaching the question carefully. That's all we're doing. You know that, a majority of my committee has said that they do expect to cut rates between now and the end of the year in the remaining 4 meetings. So it's not that we're, taking a strong view that it will be inflation and not a one-time cost increase. It's just that we're going to take a careful approach to that very critical question.
Well, let me switch gears on you a little bit. Communist China is our single greatest threat to America's national security and financial independence. Now more than ever, the U.S. must ensure security of our financial system against Communist China's malign influence. And in 2022, Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee released a report identifying efforts by Communist China operatives to infiltrate the Federal Reserve System. The report contained real-life examples of Communist China's attempts and tactics used to target Federal Reserve officials. In late January, a former senior advisor to the Federal Reserve was arrested on charges that he conspired to steal Federal Reserve trade secrets to benefit and advance Communist China's interests. This Wall Street Journal article from May 2025 details the potential ramifications of his actions. The kind of data and trade secrets that this Federal Reserve employee shared could allow Communist China to manipulate the U.S. market and gain advanced knowledge of changes to the federal funds rate. It could provide Communist China with an advantage when selling or buying U.S. bonds and securities. Chairman, has the Fed Reserve made any changes to strengthen its internal counterintelligence and security protocols since the development of these incidents?
So that's an incident, and I would say we take it very seriously. We have quite elaborate and serious and strict provisions around staff access to information, serious protections for confidential information. We have background checks. We have annual training. We have many of those things. I don't know that we've made any fundamental changes, but we're certainly, sorry, very sorry to see something like this having taken place. And we're certainly looking at the protections we have in place.
Great. Well, I have another question, and we'll just submit as a QFR, but I know the chairman said you've got a heart out, so I'll go ahead and yield back my time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.